the mission covers half of Illinois as well as half of Missouri. And so we would be going back and forth depending on where we were transferred. And it was interesting because the cultures in both are the same to some extent. I feel like the cities are pretty similar, but then like there's farmland in Illinois where Missouri is really hilly, and so they don't farm as much. And so there are differences like that within the mission. There's also Spanish-speaking elders. They don't have sisters speaking other languages. It's mostly English. There is a quote in Preach My Gospel in the, I think, chapter 9, Finding People. And it talks about Joseph Smith and those he was with traveling down the Missouri River. And then the Lord tells them to not just pass by these inhabitants because they're perishing in unbelief. And so as they're traveling, they're told to go and minister. And when I was in Fayette, Missouri, the revelation was at that point in the river. And so the members actually told us that as we were sharing, I think, a member lesson with them at dinner. And they let us know that Joseph Smith had traveled through and that they had tried teaching and hadn't had very much success in the area, which I found ironic because right along the river was this huge casino. And so I was like, yes, they are still perishing in unbelief. And now we're like being sent again. And it became really significant to realize that we were literally walking that path of discipleship. I have to say I tried fried okra for the first time and actually liked it. And then they have, I'd say fried food is definitely more prominent there than it is here. But I didn't feel like it was much of a change. Like there weren't things that shocked me that we were eating. It was pretty similar. In a general statement, the people seemed to appreciate being known for who they were individually, which could be said across the world. But they are very unique with their own personalities. And I think also because there is such a blend of backgrounds, like there were a lot of Black people, and their culture is infused into the whole society, and it's just so lively and fun. And so to really like get to know them for who they've chosen to be meant a lot. People didn't respond very well when we were trying to, or came across as trying to like change who they were. But if we invested the time to actually understand who they are and why, and then offer to add to what they already experience and add to the richness of their life, then they would often have a positive response and want to hear our message. So I felt like the best thing that I did to prepare, without knowing it at the time, was just riding the bus from my home 30 minutes away to school. And that gave me the opportunity to meet people that I wouldn't normally interact with at very different points of life. And so I had a lot of good experiences talking with someone that had just like come out of prison, or someone that was a professor all on the same day, or maybe a high school student that's ditching classes for the day. And just to accept people where they're at, it meant a lot. I guess there was more of a split in society there. And so when we were in a nicer area, that was very different from being in an area where it was mostly government housing. And so that obviously affected the kind of occupations people had, to the point that we were in an area one time when it seemed like hardly anyone worked. And that was interesting because people were just on the streets a lot. And so we could talk to them a lot, but it was just hard to have them keep commitments because they didn't have very much structure to their lives. And so we learned to be very bold and just ask them right up front, we're coming at this time that you said, are you going to be there? And what is your motivation for meeting with us? Just to make sure that they were really committed to to hearing what we had to say and making that a priority, so we weren't just like randomly zipping all around the city without seeing anyone. So there was one temple in our mission, or there is one temple. It's the St. Louis Temple. And most people have heard of the church. And if they don't recognize it by the full name, then if you say the Mormons, then they'll, oh yeah, the Mormons. And who knows what they've heard about the Mormons, right? So the church is relatively small there, very strong, but the youth would be like one of 5 in their high school in the larger areas, and then maybe like the only one in the more rural areas.